Yes, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Who's on the Go, my podcast. It's a Tuesday night here in Antigua and Barbuda, St. John's. It's not too hot, not too cold. We have some cool weathers in the night. Thank you for tuning in on our podcast, and we're going to take it to some of the issues concerning the Chinese and Antigua and Barbuda, the way I see it. Taking it from a person who was born in the Antigua Labour Party, grew up in the organization, and joined in about 2015. But after 8 years in that organization as an adult, I came to realize that they're a bunch of damn scoundrels and crooks, and I didn't want to associate with that. So we're going to play some clips really tonight and talk really about what has happened in the Antigua Labour Party concerning the influence of China on this small island nation of Antigua and Barbuda, and how much it takes to really buy an Antiguan politician or a prime minister. And that is where we're going to start, and that's where we're going to drop it tonight. Now, yeah, so it's basically centered tonight around China, and I guess we should play something like this since this is the opening. One of the things I do notice, right, in Antigua and Barbuda is that we had a situation in Antigua and Barbuda where the prime minister came into power in 2014, right? I think it was June we had that election. But what is important to realize also is that leading up to the election, after he became the leader of the Antigua Labour Party in 2012, the prime minister went on a trip. He went on a trip to China. And a lot of people in Antigua don't remember this, but I just think it is very important to realize just how dependent we are on China and how we have not been able to really establish ourselves from the influence of outside forces. We're saying we move away from the Americans because the Americans are not giving us soft loans, and they think that we're too rich and too comfortable, so we have to get these soft loans from China. But what I would like you to also consider is that the now Prime Minister of Antigua, when he was just the leader of the Antigua Labour Party in opposition, he chose to go to China. It wasn't solicited. The Chinese did not invite him to China. But from what I remember, he became the leader, and in several months' time, he chose of his own accord to travel to China. His girlfriend at the time, Maria Brown, or Maria Bird Brown, or whatever, the jacket as we call her, and Max Hurst. They went to China, what even in the party, when I was still with them at the time, they were saying that, but Gaston's so bold, Gaston is going to China unannounced, uninvited, unsolicited. And he went to China. And when they arrived at the airport, they wanted to meet the officials. Nobody knew who he was or what he was talking about. I guess they had to verify it back in Antigua with the ambassadors. They did try to make the best of the situation, and they did accommodate him. I remember reading in the Observer or whatever newspaper at the time that they said, oh, they sexed it up and all that stuff. I mean, it sounded all good that he was invited into China and that he sat in the golden room and he must have yams on Nancy Glorious and egg foo young. Couldn't tell you what the hell the man was eating. But they made it to be something great. But what Antiguan people need to really realize is that it was unsolicited. He was not invited to China. The Chinese would wait until after the election and then deal with the individual. But he who was in opposition felt that he had to take that moment, becoming the leader of the Antigua Labour Party, to go and swear fealty to the Chinese. He had to get down on his knee, probably behind closed door, probably in the Forbidden Palace or something like that, get down on his knees to Xi Jinping or Sun Yat-sen or whatever. He had to just basically pledge allegiance to the Chinese. And those of you who don't believe this is true need to just play some of the clips. Bear with me. Listen to some of the clips that went on at the time with Mr. Brown and what he was saying and what he has said ever since. Because you realize in our country, the things that have happened in Antigua, the Chinese get 5 acres of land to build their embassy. And a poor island nation like Antigua and Barbuda, which even he is breaking down farms, destroying farms, because he's saying that there's not enough land to build farms on, to build houses on. He's able to get 5 acres of land to the Chinese to build their embassy. But his own citizens, he has to destroy farms to build houses or housing projects. But it is very interesting to hear the clips of the Prime Minister, Gaston Brown, and what he has said throughout the years concerning his relationship with the Chinese. And that is why I'm saying to the people of Antigua and Barbuda that he is paid and bought for leader. The Chinese have him in their pocket. And not that they wanted to have him in their pocket, but he went over there. He said, I will be your servant in Antigua. And you just got to creatively enrich. Just as long as you allow me to creatively enrich myself. And listen to some of these clips that he has played over the years. This is the Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, independent nation state. We just came out of colonialism on the 1st of November 1981. We got our independence. And in that period of time, that roughly 40 years, the leader of the country, this is what he says about Chinese and them attempting to colonize us in Antigua and Barbuda. This is a clip. Listen to this.
If it is that China is colonizing Antigua and Barbuda with gifts, well, bring them on. Bring more.
Yes.
If it is that China is colonizing Antigua and Barbuda with gifts, well, bring them on. Bring more.
That is the reality. That
if it is that China is colonizing Antigua and Barbuda with gifts, well, bring them on. Bring more.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is what the leader of our country, an independent nation state, says, that we have suffered through slavery, right? And got our emancipation on the 1st of August, 1834. Then after that, 1834 to 19, ourselves from slavery and colonialism. But the leader of our country is telling us if Chinese want to bring gifts to colonize us, tell them to bring more. I just wanted to sit and absorb that for a while and realize where you're going with this individual. You know, you have to wonder why we have lands given to the Chinese for 1 acre for $1. You have to take in mind that we're now supposedly opening an embassy that we can't afford. We even have problems affording the embassies in Canada, New York, Florida, and Washington, D.C., and the United Kingdom. We have problems paying our bills as it is, but our Prime Minister sees it just as important to travel to the other side of the world and open up an embassy over there. Why do you think that is? Because he's bought and paid for. He's China's Xi Jinping's bitch. And that is the sad reality of what is happening here in Antigua and Barbuda. So let's just go on. You know, one of the things that I always remember, and for me personally, it's a personal matter, because you remember the Wadadley power plant, and you remember how when the ALP was in opposition and the UPP was in office, the Labour Party people, average people look at those power plants and they were not working and they were not servicing the country as the UPP had told us. We did not see any cheaper rates in our electricity bills. And people were saying, but we saw these pictures that Max Hurst and Marvin Jones had put out there, and the videos, and how they had them up at crops, and the generators look old. They were not new. They're commissioned in 2011. They look old. And everybody's wondering what kind of old generators we paid 40, 50 million US dollars for. Those things are supposed to last for 40, 50 years. And the part that is most interesting is that the Prime Minister, then, he was the chairman at the time, he came out with this novel point. It's not whether it is old or new. It's did we get value for money? And that is what he said after that scandal broke in 2011. He wasn't concerned whether it was old or new. He was concerned whether we had value for money. Since that time, we're now in 2024. The Prime Minister cannot tell us, he's such an astute and smart and brilliant mind, if we have value for money. But we do know that none of the 6 generators that we purchased and commissioned in 2011 are presently working in Antigua and Barbuda, and that's servicing us for another 40 years. And that is what we want people to understand, and what we want you more to remember, because this is so sad and pathetic, the state of this country under this supposed leader, that the Antiguan people, and more so poor people, can't catch themselves. You know, this is what clip now I'm going to play for you when he was attained power in June of 2014. And he went on ABS radio. I think Dave Lesapade and another lady, Clarissa or something like that, was there. And this is her voice over the clip that the piece that they mentioned. Listen to this.
What I've done recently, I made an intervention. In fact, this intervention was made about 2 months ago, in which we made about $200,000 US dollars from the CIP funds for them to buy parts so that they can operate the engines efficiently.
Meantime, PM Brown commented on the island's frequent power outages.
I think it's really a management issue, but from time to time, you will have, certain emergencies that may arise. But speaking, I would say that the production of electricity has been far more consistent than in previous decades, for sure.
The commissioning of the Wadadley power plant in 2011 was expected to improve the Antigua Public Utilities Authority's ability to supply reliable electricity to domestic and...
Yeah, well, that is what I just wanted to play for you. That is a clip where you hear him talking about what is really going on in this country in regards to the Wadadley power plant. But unfortunately, we do not have any investigation that has been done. He said that some cabinet has determined that somebody will investigate the matter. That was since 2014. We don't know if the generators are old to this day. We don't know if the generators are new. We don't know if we got value for money. But you can see the Chinese connection here because he went to pledge fealty to the Chinese even before they asked. And that is why they have 5 acres of land at Marble Hill for $1. That is why we have an embassy in China when we cannot even afford the embassies that are in the Western world, that are in North America and Western Europe and Canada. And that is the reality that you're facing here in Antigua and Barbuda. We do not have the money. They're cash strapped. What I even heard this week is that, well, the laws were passed last year concerning alcohol, that the government has imposed a 10% tax on purchasing of alcoholic beverages. But what has happened here really is that the wholesale distributors or wholesale companies did not pass that on to their clients. They were not collecting the 10% on alcoholic beverages. Unfortunately, for all those who like to drink alcohol, including myself, the government has sent a letter to all wholesale distributors and letting them know that they're expecting them to impose, to charge that 10% on taxes so that they can get the revenue. The revenue has to be raised because we're getting an overseas embassy all the way in the Far East, all the way in China. We have the Wadadli power plant that doesn't work. We have the Alpha Nero, the Russian super yacht, which we are still servicing and maintaining and paying staff and crew to maintain a boat that we cannot afford, nor can we pay for. Nor can we sell, nor can we afford or sell. So you see the situation here really in Antigua and Barbuda. We're in a very bad situation. It is so pathetic that it's just like unbelievable. But when you hear these taxes of these 2%, and you hear about alcohol prices, 10% on alcoholic beverages, please do not think about what happened in the last year or two or elections, 2013 and the 18th of January. Think back to when this individual became the leader of the Antigua Labour Party. He, his girlfriend, Maria, and Max Hurst, the most lying individual God has ever created, chose to go to China to kowtow to the Chinese. And that is why you have in Antigua and Barbuda this economy that we have. We are supposed to be an independent country. And what you have to bear in mind is that, yes, the Chinese give us soft loans, but the real economy of Antigua and Barbuda, the tourist economy, our main industry, it's not the Chinese that support that. It's North America. The Americans, the Western Europeans, that is the main part, the British, the UK, and Canada. Those are the people that are running economy because their citizens travel, cruise, and travel by plane and come to Antigua. They are naturally English-speaking countries, and they here. It is a traditional thing. It is not something that just started last year, 2 years, or just upon independence. And that is the factor that the Chinese really started the diplomatic relations with Antigua in 1981. And they are not the runners of our economy. Our economy is based on Western Europe and North America. Those are our main clientele. So why wouldn't the Prime Minister, before anywhere else, go and visit the United States of America, Canada, Western Europe, more so the UK? That was not on his agenda because he is bought. They paid for him. He is Xi Jinping's little bitch. And that is what we want the Antiguans to be aware of. That is what we want you all to pick sense out of nonsense. But who in their right mind is the leader of a party in opposition? And the first thing that you go and do is travel to China. You didn't go to Western Europe. You didn't go to Eastern Europe. You didn't go to the Middle East. You didn't go to Asia Minor. Right? You went to the Far East, to kowtow, because you know financially they would benefit you more than the Americans, the Canadians, and the United Kingdom. And that is the reality of what has happened. And after he became the leader and all that stuff, you can hear the blowhard, the blowhard, the dirtbag talking, making these statements about how wealthy he was, how he advised his members of cabinets, his colleagues, to enrich themselves. And that is another factor that, when you boil it down, Mr. Brown was not a wealthy man before 2014. Mr. Brown, when he was the chairman of the Antigua Labour Party, before he became the leader, they used to get these guys, accessory guys, to put on the speakers on the cars for the elections. And they couldn't even afford to pay these guys one time. They were paying them in hocks and herring. I say, if you come next month, I'll give you $500, I'll give you $300. That was the reality that they were facing. You understand? So all these millions you hear in this man making and all that stuff is all bullshit. He's no brilliant businessman or no freaking great banker, you know? And I just want to play that clip that he got into office and he was really smelling his top lip. Listen to what this idiot has to say.
And I to my colleague ministers, if you're not here to serve, if you're here to enrich yourselves, well, too bad. If you're going to serve, but by virtue of your creativity, you can also enrich yourselves, I have no problem with that. And I have said to my colleague ministers, if you're not here to serve, if you're here to enrich yourselves, well, too bad. If you're going to serve, but by virtue of your creativity, you can also enrich yourselves, I have no problem with that. And
so he has no problem with you creatively enrich yourself while you are supposed to be creatively trying to empower and enrich the citizens of Antigua and Barbuda who put you into office, but you're going to advise them to creatively enrich themselves. Not, you have to do it creatively, you can't do it uncreatively. I guess he's saying uncreatively is what we know as theft and being a crook, but creatively, you're a creative artist that is a crook also. But I don't know whether you do it uncreatively or creatively, it's just a damn crook. You can't really separate the two. It's not apples and oranges. It's one is a thief is doing it uncreatively, and another thief is doing it creatively. That is how you judge these people and the nonsense they were saying. But you know what? Let me get back to y'all. Give me a little history, right? When doing the lone wolf, we were picketing against the Chinese for these same Wardadley power plants. We had a plan for them, you know. The plan was, listen, we went up to that embassy over there when it was at Marble Hill, just below Marble Hill, and we had a plan for them. Cause I already got my flags, my Chinese flags. I ordered them on Amazon and shipped them in. Just cost $5, $6 or something like that back then. And we were planning to get answers from the Chinese if these generators are old or new. Because you remember Lu Hanming, the ambassador at the time, he had gone to a press conference with the Prime Minister, then Ball and Spencer and David Shaw's. And then they need to back up, and then they so lie themselves and couldn't really justify how those generators look so old. So they brought in Lu Hanming, and he made the mistake in an internal matter where we are seeking answers from our politicians. He jump in, unelected, not come from here. I'm going to tell Antiguan people that the generators are new. So we went out there to ask him a question and ask him to provide the proof. Don't just kowtow or suck up to make the one and Spencer look good. So we went out there, and lo and behold, we decided that we were going to burn Chinese flag outside the Chinese embassy. Don't have the flag on them, you know. You know what happened? We determined at the time that we couldn't just burn the flags just like that. We had to make it escalate. We'll ask a letter, we'll write letters to Chinese, we'll ask them to account for the way that power plant why it's in that state. And if by every stage you go on for a couple of weeks, there was no response, we're going to burn the friggin' Chinese right outside the embassy, piss everybody off. You know why it never happened? Because out of the 20 lone wolf, all but lone wolf protesters, who wanna get bought off, who wanna get intimidated, who wanna get threatened with losing their job, who just weak and cowardly and does not have no backbone, who just decide that it's better to switch than to fight. There's only one man left standing, Vere III, the lone wolf. So, you're just there, and you're like, wait, we can't just burn the flag like that. We need to have a crowd. It just looks so odd, but that was what the plan was. And I believe they realized what was coming next, not only the UPP, but even the opposition Labour Party. All the lone wolf and them, all the protesters and them got bought off. So I just wanted to give you a little account for what had happened in the past and how that one played out. But no, we don't intend to sway any fealty to China. This is an independent nation state that brought the independence of my grandfather and my family. And we don't bow down to anybody. We don't go to China unannounced and uninvited and unsolicited. We leave that for the degenerates like Gaston Brown, Maria, and Max Hurst. You understand? And concerning the Chinese and the way they have the influence swaying over Antigua and Barbuda, the way you give them 5 acres of land to build that bunker out there at Marble Hill. And you're coming to tell me that you don't have enough land to build houses, so you have to destroy Dunbar's farm. We ain't playing those games. We ain't playing those games with Gaston Brown and the rest of the degenerates in office. You understand? Let me see. I have 1 or 2 more clips that I want to play for you now. Tonight. It's me one in the studio tonight, so I'm just going to play some clips and let you think about it. Just before you go to bed, you don't put your children to sleep. You probably want to watch a little TV or read a book or have sex. But before, during, or after, we just want you to concentrate. Let your mind marinate some of these clips that we're playing and some of these arguments. I've never heard of a leader of any country a leader of an opposition party run off to go to another country to have talks. You're not the prime minister at the time, and you weren't just months into being the leader of the opposition. But you felt the need to go to China. And we've seen all the effects of what happened up there in Guana Island. Look what happened to Guana Island. They bring in, look at Chinaman that we need now, Zhang. Zhang was supposed to provide us with $200 million US dollars a year for 10 years to put in the treasury of Antigua and Barbuda. He's going to develop Guana Island like a Shangri-La. It's going to be the most exciting, the most prosperous, the creme de la creme of tourist attractions. Who is held accountable? One of the things I never understand with our media houses, and that's why they really don't go on mainstream media anymore. I just think they're full of shit, to be honest with you. They don't do a damn thing but just talk. You know what I don't understand? How come you have talk shows with personalities? They're not journalists. 9 times out of 10, they're politicians. But if you have a media house which has journalists that go out in the streets and find stories and find facts and find details of what is really going on a story, how come none of these media houses have the journalists who went and write an article in a newspaper or prepared a news item on the top of the hour and tell you what the facts are, and this is what we learned, and this is what we called, and we spoke to this person? How come we never have the journalists have a talk show so that we can talk about what they went out and found? You always have talking heads. I think that's a problem. I don't really listen to the radio station anymore because it's all talk shows. They're not the only journalist I really know that has a talk show is Dave Lester Payne, and he's not really into journalism so much. So since he left AS, But he's a trained journalist. He has the years of experience. But everybody's just a talking head. So I'm really wondering, how much are we really being informed with the sort of setup of our media where it is just personalities and mostly politicians giving you 2 hours, an hour on a talk show? I don't think it's very well planned out or really thought out, but it's cheap and it's affordable, and politicians have to talk, so shit, give them a talk show. That's the way I look at that issue there, you know. One of the things with the Labour Party, one of the things when in this country on a different level, because he acknowledged all the corruption that was in the past in the Antigua Labour Party and so on and so forth, right? But one of the things I'd like to point out, right? Let me see. Boom, boom, boom. Just bear with me.
It seems only that when a falling out occurs.
Let me see if I can find this man here.
It seems only that when a falling out occurs.
Mr. Speaker, I have been out of state for a few days, and I understand that there is a letter that was sent to me written by the leader of the United Progressive Party requesting certain information about a parcel of land that was sold by my government to a company by the name of Ocean Drills Limited at Long Bay. Mr. Speaker, my government has a policy of selling land at a developmental price of $3 per square foot. The price is set at $3 per square foot specifically to incentivize investments. And we have sold land at that rate to several developers, include the Adams project on Fry's Hill. In fact, that project was initiated by a member on the other side of the aisle, the Honorable Member for All Saints East and St. Luke. And my government, in order to incentivize investment, sold them 10 acres of land at $3 per square foot.
And nothing come at the Adams project.
Private Antiguans and Barbudans who have been sold land at a similar price, including a commitment to sell Mr. Belgrove Gregory at 5 islands, 5 acres at $3 per square foot for a tourism development. Mm-hmm. I believe there's a pastor who's doing a project around south.
Yeah.
We've sold land as well at $3 per square foot.
And what becoming them projects?
We're inviting other Antiguans and Barbudans to capitalize on this policy of the government to sell crown land at a reduced price in order to stimulate investments in the country. Mr. Speaker, the 1.5 acres of land that was sold at Long Bay, it is not beach property. I repeat, it is not beach property that has been asserted or has been asserted by members of the UPP. In fact, it is 1.5 acres of land that has been in the custody of Long Bay property for over 50 years. They have had the use of that land for over 50 years, but it remained in Crown. And there is a new developer now that has purchased the Long Bay Hotel property along with several adjacent parcels of land, including a parcel of land belonging to Mr. Lucian Barreto, in order to pursue a hotel project that will cost in excess of 100 million EC dollars.
Yeah.
The land, in our estimation, is valued perhaps at about $5 per square foot, and we have sold it at a developmental price at $3. In fact, this land is behind the hotel itself on the main road, the Wilkie's main road leading up to Long Bay, and is not even as close to the beach compared to the 4 acres of land that was leased for 99 years. In fact, it was not leased, it was occupied by Mama Pastor, 4 acres of beach property, which I want to give notice today that my government will be taking back. In fact, the individual will be given instructions to tear down that fence so that Long Bay can become available once again to the people of Antigua and Barbuda. So the 4 acres
what about
of land
the hotel that is on the restaurant that is right here on Long Bay right now?
To occupy, she will be given formal notice to vacate to make sure that Long Bay Beach becomes accessible to the people of Antigua and Barbuda.
It is not accessible as it is right now.
Mr. Speaker,
I know that I'm not under any.
No, you see what he's saying? He wants to tear down Mama Pasta. She is Italian. She is the wife or the girlfriend of an Antiguan man, and they have a business up there called Mama Pastas. He wants to tear down their restaurant so that the beachfront property can become accessible to Antiguans. This was said in 2014, 2015. But if you go up to Long Bay now and you see the beach, there's a restaurant right on the beach. He never tore down that because somebody have the interest and they get to the prime minister. So no tearing down or anything else. It's just the local people that get the hard time. Let's go on. Let you talk about how wealthy he is now.
Obligation to answer the attacks on my personal integrity. But be aware that I'm running an extremely transparent and accountable government. And even though I'm not prepared to give the leader of the UPP any comfort by answering his letter that he wrote me, I'm prepared to account to the public. The assertion has been made, Mr. Speaker, that since I became Prime Minister, I became suddenly wealthy. Now, I just want to share some information in passing, without getting into too much details, to confirm that in 2014, in my declaration to the Integrity Commission, that I declared in excess of $30 million in assets. Assets that were acquired without the assistance of the government, without doing any deal with the government. A significant portion of it would have been real estate assets owned throughout the country, properties in Painters, in Piccadilly, in Jennings, in Villa, in Grace Farm, in Fittis Creek, in Cedar Valley. Again, as I said, in excess of $30 million in assets. The assets also included heavy equipment, to include trucks, tobacco, and other equipment, cars. In fact, I've been involved in the rent-a-car business for many years as well. And Mr. Speaker, these assets were acquired as a result of 30 years of toil. In fact, my first business venture was at age 20. Well, substantial.
I'm not going to get into it any further. I think you already get the picture that he's claiming that he had $30 million in assets before he came into politics. But yet, when they had a campaign, I was a campaign manager for Max Hernandez, and those guys were so damn broke. And what even he told me is that they were working with Alan Stanton for the 2009 election. He had to switch cars and to get the money from Alan Stanford, because what Gaston told me, he was the bag man. So he got the money. And then what we heard is that they wanted to invest in a TV station to fight the UPP who was in office in the 2009 election. And they quote unquote spent $500,000 of the money to get TV equipment. And they're supposed to have a channel on, you remember Carib Cable and CTV? Carib Cable boofed them and told them they didn't want them on the channel. CTV allowed them. And that was what they call the Cove Head channel that he put on. They didn't have any footage. They didn't have anybody manage it. They didn't have anybody to set up a proper program. But they spent $500,000, or he spent $500,000 of Stanford's money to buy Labour Party equipment. After they lost the election, he took the equipment down to St. John's City West. And he claimed it was his equipment because his name was on the purchase, on the invoice. It was his money. It wasn't the party's money any longer. And that's just the way the man rolled, you understand? But I just wanted tonight to play the clips to you all. I didn't want to really talk so much, but I just wanted to play a lot of the clips because it's unheartening, it's disheartening to hear what is happening in Antigua with the Chinese and how a leader, you think Papa Bird would go all the way over China for go pledging the allegiance to them, before that, he'd have gone to Africa. You understand? But for some reason, he know that the politicians know that the country is run industry-wise by North America and Western Europe for tourism industry. But the politicians, the political elite, get paid by the Chinese. That is why Yi Zhang put in so much money in the 2014 election to get the Labour Party elected into office. That was not Yi Zhang's money. As far as you know, Yi Zhang doesn't have any money. But that was state money from the People's Republic of China. And that is what people need to just, before you go to bed or before you have any extracurricular activities, just listen to what I'm saying. And it all makes sense. Why a man can come and tell you, after we went through slavery and colonialism, that if the Chinese want to colonize us, they can come and colonize us. That's not a problem. That's come with more gifts.
If it is that China is colonizing Antigua and Barbuda with gifts, well, bring them on. Bring more. If it is that China is colonizing Antigua and Barbuda with gifts, well, bring them on. Bring more.
Now, what I have a problem with, right, is that I remember leading up to the 2014 elections, they had this big issue about they had a code of ethics. Because the Antigua Barbuda's politicians and the whole image of the party was just so damn corrupt and so damn thief that they had this whole clip where they said they had this, they're supposed to have this stuff that they signed, and then the code of ethics. And this code of ethics is very important. They had to sign this code of ethics so that the people can believe that they're going to run this country properly. You know, I just found it very amazing that these code of ethics went out the window, because what you're hearing this man is saying is something that is unethical, and he's creatively enriching himself. But who cares? Nobody is paying attention to what is being said, and more so what is being done. You understand? So let me just play you this clips. Let me see if I can find the clip there. Oh Lord. No, let me see the damn clip. Oh yeah, here we go. This is what you were saying leading up to the 2014 Bishop Brown in the studio. They probably just used him and had him to make them appear that they were going to be ethical people. But listen to what you.
I just got a text here, and this one seems to have emanated from overseas, a 971 number. It says here, moral and ethics in any institution starts from the top.
That's right.
As a leader, what are you going to do to ensure proper ethical modeling permeates the institution? Now, I know that you are a lecturer in ethics.
That's right.
And I have given the people of this country an undertaking that clearly there are certain new values that will be introduced to augment the existing ones that sustained us over the years.
That's right. We can't have too much ethics.
Correct.
Morality.
And as you know, we have introduced recently a code of ethics for the members of the party, especially those who would serve in the new ALP administration. But I'm thinking that in as much as they will sign this declaration, I'm making a public request here for you as someone who lectures in ethics, for you to engage our team and to offer some classes in ethics in order to strengthen the ethical foundations of our institution.
We do like to do that.
I have also made a point too that we expect all candidates, for sure, and certainly other senior members of the party, to adhere to the provisions of our code of ethics, and that there be some form of self-regulation. All of us have our faults, but we have to understand that we have to adjust.
What the hell is a self-regulation? Self-regulate your ethics? I thought there was a whole reason for a code of ethics, that you would set the standard. But he's saying self-regulation. You don't see them already start for black side, you know. They already start for black side, backslide before they even sign the damn code of ethics. Let's go on.
In accordance with the requirements of the electorate. And I give an undertaking here that as the leader of this institution, I will lead from the front. And whatever issues that individuals think or any weaknesses that they may see, I am willing to make the adjustments and to ensure that I am best able to serve this country and to preside over a moral and certainly ethical party, or a party with very strong moral and ethical underpinnings.
Yes, yes, ladies and gentlemen. Well, you heard it from its mouth, right? And that is the sad part. That is the very, very sad circumstances that we are faced with in Antigua and Barbuda.
And I have said to my colleague ministers, if you're not here to serve, if you're here to enrich yourselves, well, too bad. If you're going to serve, but by virtue of your creativity, you can also enrich yourselves. I have no problem with that. And
Something is wrong. Something is wrong with a people that will allow a man to say that he is going to tell his colleagues to creatively enrich yourself. If you're going in there just to enrich yourself, that's wrong. You're a thief. But if you serve the people and you creatively enrich yourself, then he doesn't have any problem with that. Isn't it 6 and a 9? Isn't it the same thing? 6 and a half a dozen. Isn't that the same thing? You're a crook. That is what you're saying there. There's no difference. You cannot differentiate a creative crook from a non-creative crook. But that is what we face here in Antigua and Barbuda. And tonight I didn't want to talk so much. I just wanted to play you some of the clips over the years that we've heard from this man and ask you, before you go to your extracurricular activities, before you go watch a movie, read a book, pray to your God, think about what these clips are saying. Think about his actions after he became the leader of the Antigua Labour Party in opposition. He went straight to kowtow the Chinese and nobody else. China is not a democracy. Oversight, accountability. The only one man they have to have accountability to is Xi Jinping. He didn't go to the United Kingdom. He didn't go to the United States. He didn't go to Canada because they will fund money because people like to take trips to a nice, beautiful island. And that is what these countries in the Western Hemisphere support our tourism. China gives soft loans in order to reel us in because our leaders have destroyed our good name, credit worthiness, being able to pay back international debts to international banks. So they have to go elsewhere. And the only way that would give them money is China, which has a lot of money, but China gets something back in return. And what have they got in Antigua and Barbuda? They have a embassy, which land that they got for $1, 5 acres of land for $1. And a country that cannot afford embassies in Canada, Florida, New York, Washington, D.C., and the United Kingdom, we're struggling to pay those embassies and keeping them up and running. We all of a sudden are getting the embassy all the way over in China, halfway around the world, on the other side of the world. And that is the sad reality that we're facing. And that is what I want to leave you with tonight to let you consider. Consider the fact that your country is being run by Chinese. It is being, the leaders they're comfortable the way things are because they're getting easy money. But they, at the end of the day, they are corrupted by easy Chinese money. And they do not have anything else to offer the Antigua and Barbuda, Peter, but land, work in a hotel, menial work. You're going to cook, clean, wash, and entertain tourists. That is it for the future of this country. And when you get tired of doing that in Antigua and Barbuda, when you get tired of washing, cooking, and cleaning for the tourists in Antigua, they said, okay, we're going to even extend it. In Barbuda, you're going to be doing the same thing. So that is the reality that we are faced with in this country. And as I said, I just wanted to play these clips for you of the craziness that's going on in Antigua and Barbuda. And yes, this country, more than any other in the Caribbean, is influenced by what China says and does, because our leader went to kowtow before the Chinese. That is the reality. That is what we are faced with. And on that note, you guys have a good night. I'll see you again, God willing, next week, but we probably have the Go Mike podcast on Saturday with Nedwell. And we take it from here. We see if the Antiguan people can actually internalize what is being said and come up with a game plan to get Antigua and Barbuda out of the mess we're in for future generations' sake. Take care. Bye for now.